Hey guys. So, yesterday, Twitch dropped some really big, unfortunate news. In an update published on their blog by Dan Clancy, their CEO, it said that this morning I shared with our community in Korea that we've made the difficult decision to shut down the Twitch business in Korea on February 27th, 2024 KST. And the reasoning for this is that the cost to operate Twitch in Korea is just extremely expensive. In the past, they tried to reduce their costs by implementing a peer-to-peer model, which basically meant that, let's say I'm a user on Twitch, right? My internet would be used to help support other people's usage of Twitch. So they did that and it didn't quite work. Then they made it so that the maximum streaming quality of the people in South Korea would be 720p. So if I'm living in South Korea and want to use Twitch, the maximum quality that I can watch a stream is 720p. So it's interesting to note that this actually caused a lot of popular esports teams to swap to other streaming services like YouTube as their primary streaming service over Twitch. And even with this, it didn't work, and their fees for operating in Korea were still 10x more expensive than in other countries. So that's really unfortunate. And what does this really mean for streamers and viewers in Korea? Well, if we look over here in the FAQ, for streamers, it looks like you'll either have to go somewhere else to stream, like YouTube or Africa TV, which is a popular streaming service in Korea, but really nobody else outside of Korea uses, or physically move away from Korea and stream somewhere else. As you can see outlined here, you can be re-onboarded outside of Korea and still be monetized. And interestingly enough, it doesn't mention anything on this list about not being able to stream at all from Korea. It just mentions the monetization pieces. So I presume that means that you can still stream from Korea, but just not be monetized. But for viewers, it looks like you'll still be able to use Twitch, but you just won't be able to purchase subs, gifts, or bits. So basically anything related and revolving around monetization, you can't do. So why is this happening? And where does all this come from? Well, I think the first place we should look at is, articles online, right? So let's take a look at this New York Times article. In this article, they state that the reason why this happens in South Korea specifically is because South Korea has charged higher network usage fees to foreign content providers, providing controversy and legal disputes. Netflix recently sued a South Korean internet service provider, arguing that it had no obligation to pay network usage fees. In 2021, a court in Seoul upheld the provider's rights to receive such fees. So, looking into this more, and while I applaud New York Times for looking into some of the past issues of a company like Netflix who had these problems in South Korea, this statement isn't really completely factual. It's kind of interesting because pretty much wherever you look that covers this topic, it states that this is the reason for why Twitch has such high operating costs in Korea. But before we dive into this, I really want to call attention to this line right here. It's so hilarious. Then a downgrade of video quality to a resolution known as 720p. The way they say known as 720p makes it really sound like some exotic animal or something. This wild and unheard species known as 720p is often feared by many humans as the low quality is known to burn the retinas of humans who watch it. Oh my gosh. It just makes me feel like the person who's wrote this article is just an extreme boomer. But okay, back to the real topic at hand. If we click this link that they provide, it brings us to this page on the US Chamber of Commerce, written by this guy named Sean Heather in 2022. It's titled, South Korea Considers Additional Networking Fees for Foreign Content Providers. And I think the big thing to focus on is this word that says considers, because I dove into this topic a bit deeper and really couldn't find anything stating that this law actually passed. In fact, an interview by Media Nama, they interviewed this person called Professor Kyung Shin Park, the co-founder and executive director of OpenNetKorea.org and law professor at the Korea University of Law School. He said specifically in this interview that The law has not been extended to include the content providers as the party is obligated to make the payment. So far, the sender pay rule applies only among ISPs. So basically, what this is saying is that the South Korean government, South Korea, is not requiring the content providers, aka Twitch, to make payments. They're only requiring the ISPs to make payments. So what the New York Times article and the other articles are saying that South Korea is making foreign content providers pay more, is just completely untrue. The government does not have anything to do with this. And from what I can tell, Professor Park is one of the leading voices in this space. So his name will definitely come back up later in this video. And also, I trust his opinion because of that. So I guess we're kind of back to this question again of why is it so expensive for Twitch to operate in Korea? Well, does the phrase net neutrality sound familiar? Well, if it does, it's probably because us here in the land of the free actually don't have net neutrality at the moment. And it's something that was repealed in 2017 when Trump was president. So, what is net neutrality exactly? Well, according to my good friend Wikipedia, net neutrality is the principle that ISPs must treat all internet communications equally, offering users and online content providers, such as Twitch, consistent rates irrespective of content, website, platform, application, type of equipment, source address, destination address, or methods of communications. So basically, in a world where net neutrality doesn't exist, ISPs like Comcast and AT&T can charge the end user more or less depending on how much they use the internet. So, wait, doesn't that mean that the world that we live in here in the US is like that? Well, surprisingly, no. According to the CNBC article, it looks like California was able to keep net neutrality. So the state of California was able to keep net neutrality, and is likely the reason why ISPs aren't implementing these egregious payment models at the moment. Additionally, it looks like we're in the process of restoring net neutrality as well. So the reason why Twitch can't operate in Korea anymore is because there's no net neutrality in Korea? Well, not exactly. Korea still has net neutrality, but it has been partially killed off amongst the ISPs. You see, according to this interview again from Professor Kyung-Shin Park on Asian Boss, in Korea, they passed a law in 2016 where they are mandating ISPs to charge for traffic. What this means is if Twitch is hosted on ISP A, right, and people using ISP B and ISP C watch content on Twitch, then ISP A, the host of Twitch, needs to pay ISP B and ISP C for the amount of data that's transferred to them because it's a quote unquote burden on ISP B and ISP C because they're having to take this data from ISP A. So in turn, ISP A asks Twitch, hey, you need to pay for these fees that were incurred because people are watching Twitch from the other ISPs. Professor Park says this is backwards because it's not necessarily a burden on the ISPs because if the ISPs didn't have access to Twitch and only people using ISP A, which is the ISP that's hosting Twitch, had access to it, why would people who want to watch Twitch use ISP B or ISP C, right? They just swap over to ISP A. And I agree with this. In addition, making ISPs pay for this traffic is extremely backwards because in turn, the ISPs have no incentive to host popular platforms like Twitch because all it does is increase the cost for them. But there is a small advantage to being the host, which is that the users of, let's say, ISP A, who is hosting Twitch, will be able to stream to and from Twitch with lower latency. He states that internet access fees are 8 to 10 times the cost in countries compared to countries like London, Paris, and Frankfurt, which is actually pretty similar to the number that Dan Clancy gave us on the blog. So this is why Twitch needs to leave Korea. It's not because foreign companies are charged more by the government or even these ISPs. Well, I mean, maybe they are, right? There's probably some shady stuff going on in the background. with fees and such. Maybe like they're incentivizing or letting the local kind of streaming service have a better cost, right? Compared to the foreign ones, but that's not in the law. It's not written. It's nothing like that. There's no regulation that says that, right? But rather, the cost of hosting content in Korea is really just expensive to begin with. And going back to this New York Times article from before that we were mentioning, Netflix was able to skirt by this because their lawsuit ended up being dissolved because they're now in partnership with the ISP, SK Broadband, to offer Netflix to their users as part of, let's say, like an internet package that they pay for, right? It's kind of similar to what we do here with like Comcast, and like, they offer like Disney or Hulu or something as a part of like internet package you buy from them, right? It's similar to that. This is something that Twitch is likely unable to do because Twitch is a free service and not a paid service like Netflix is. So yeah, that's that. Unfortunately, Twitch is no longer able to operate in Korea because of their net neutrality laws. And while big streamers on Twitch will likely be fine no matter where they go, especially the ones that are like international, right? The ones who have big international audiences, or streamers who have big Korean audiences, I think that really the biggest burden will be on those mid-sized streamers who don't have that large loyal following, who will just kind of go to any platform they want, right? Who will just kind of follow them there. A lot of people just are like, I want to be on Twitch and I just want to watch stuff on Twitch. And I understand there's a lot of people like that out there. So please, if you're a fan of these streamers who are kind of these in this area of like the mid-sized streamers, and I mean even the large ones, right? Please reach out to them, show your support, and follow them wherever they go, because it's definitely a tough situation to be in. Yeah, this video is definitely a little bit different from what I normally do on this channel. If you've clicked on my channel at all or been a watcher or a viewer of my channel, you'll know I don't normally really do content like this. But as a result, there was also a lot of research that went into it because I didn't know anything about communications or broadband law before this. So please, if you enjoyed this video, support me by hitting that like button, hitting that sub button, ring the bell for notifications, and leave a comment down below on what streamers that you follow that you think we should support. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out.